This Vietnamese soldier grabs the American pilot by the hair like he's showing off his prized trophy. The pilot clearly looks tall and strong, but right now he doesn't dare stand up straight. After his plane crashed, he accidentally landed in the dense rainforest surrounding Vietnam. If he doesn't obey every command, there's only one outcome waiting for him: death. The man is then marched at gunpoint to a remote village deep in the jungle. Throughout the entire journey, he forces a smile and desperately tries to control his overwhelming fear. When they tell him to sit down, he immediately sits down without hesitation. When they order him to lie flat on the ground, he obediently does exactly what they say. But what happens next is completely beyond anything he could have expected. This group of Vietnamese soldiers actually tie him up in a spread eagle position. They leave him under the scorching sun for a brutal 3 hours straight. The man desperately begs to use the bathroom, but his captors completely ignore his pleas. Eventually he has no choice but to soil himself right there in his pants. But the torture is far from over at this point. Next they decide to play a sick game by tying the man to a water buffalo. The faster the bull runs through the mud, the more painful the friction becomes for the pilot. And the more pain he's in, the harder these Vietnamese soldiers laugh with pure enjoyment. When they finally get bored with this twisted entertainment, they hang him upside down from a tree. They press a honeycomb crawling with ants directly against his face. Then they spin him around in circles just to continue their sadistic fun. In just one morning, the pilot has been tortured beyond all recognition. Only when he's barely clinging to life do the Vietnamese soldiers finally cut him down. This isn't out of any sense of mercy or compassion whatsoever. They just want to switch to a different method to keep the man conscious, because he's about to be transported to his next destination and they need him alive. During the forced march through the jungle, the group encounters American military helicopters overhead. They frantically huddle together in the thick underbrush, covering themselves with vegetation to stay hidden. The Vietnamese soldiers are convinced that the pilot somehow called in this trouble, so they immediately start taking out all their anger and frustration on him. But the man absolutely explodes with rage at this unfair treatment. After screaming hysterically at them for several minutes, he demands that they just shoot him dead right now. But obviously they're not going to do anything like that. An American military pilot is an incredibly valuable prisoner of war. He still has plenty of useful information they can extract from him, and so the man is dragged to what can only be described as a broken down prison camp. Before being thrown into his cell, they forcibly remove his boots. In the Vietnamese soldiers' minds, a man with bare feet can never escape through this dense mountain wilderness. But if you look carefully, there are several other pairs of shoes sitting nearby. This clearly indicates that he's not the only one who's been captured as a prisoner of war. However, all the other prisoners look absolutely skeletal and malnourished. You can tell they've been suffering under long-term oppression and starvation. One prisoner has completely lost his mind and constantly talks nonsense to himself. He keeps fantasizing that the Vietnamese guards will somehow have mercy and release him. Every single night their hands and feet are chained so tightly they can barely move. Forget about getting a decent night's sleep, they can't even use the bathroom properly. They have to relieve themselves while lying flat on their backs. One prisoner suffers from severe stomach problems and has diarrhea multiple times every night. A fellow prisoner has been keeping count of these incidents. Not including tonight, he's already soiled himself 2,207 times since being captured. The pilot doesn't want everyone to continue suffering like this any longer, so he asks around to see if anyone knows where they might find a nail. But looking around the entire prison camp, everything is built from bamboo and woven vines. The only nail he can spot is on a post where the guards hang their clothes. Several prisoners agree to work together and spread out around the camp. Their job is to distract the guards and draw their attention away. Meanwhile, the pilot casually approaches one of the guards and strikes up a friendly conversation. One of his fellow prisoners had mentioned that this particular guard who has dwarfism is actually somewhat decent. He's not nearly as cruel and vicious as the rest of the guards in this place. Back in the cell, the man finds a sharp rock and starts working. He spends hours grinding and shaping the nail until it becomes a thin metal pick. With this small but crucial tool, they now have a makeshift key to unlock their shackles anytime. As long as they put everything back exactly the way it was before the guards check on them, they'll never know. And now that they have this advantage, they can finally start preparing for their daring escape plan.